Let's look at the vicious cycle of redistribution, something we alluded to earlier. 1. The taxpayers pay 50% or more of their income towards redistribution. 2. Redistribution comes in many forms, which we'll look at shortly, but it's all the same thing. 3. Taking money from productive, high IQ taxpayers and giving it to non-productive, low IQ, dysgenic non-taxpayers. 4. What do the low IQ, dysgenic masses spend your redistributed tax dollars on? That's right, social media, YouTube, TikTok, OnlyFans, and the rest. Remember the billionaire social media company founders from earlier? They are getting rich off of your redistributed tax dollars. And if that wasn't bad enough, they further indoctrinate their addicted, dysgenic users with leftist ideology. Now, do you understand why all the big tech companies, Facebook, Google, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and yes, even Twitter, still plenty of censorship there, are in cahoots with the Democrat Party? Because the Democrat Party redistributes your money to low IQ voters, who in turn spend most of that money on big tech. 5. And then big tech, through their leftist brainwashing, not hard to do with the low IQ, gets the dysgenic masses to vote for the Democrats. 6. The big tech companies and the leftist politicians accumulate more money and power, and you pay for it all. The racket is highly effective. This is a classic vicious cycle. Redistribution leads to dysgenics, which in turn increases votes for the left, who redistribute even more, which leads to more dysgenics, and on and on. This is how you hollow out an economy and how civilizations collapse. How much have we redistributed since 1933? Adjusted for inflation, the amount is a whopping $70 trillion. $70 trillion from the high IQ, productive, genetically fit taxpayer to the low IQ, unproductive, genetically unfit non-taxpayer. And this has had predictable effects for more power for the left. Ever-expanding welfare and redistribution programs and generational poverty, the so-called Democrat plantation. Understandably, the U.S. economy is tanking, but the left doesn't care about that. They care about their power, their fiefdoms, and their personal gain. And it's not just a domestic problem. By some estimates, Africa has received over $5 trillion in foreign aid, yet one of the many euphemisms for redistribution. Results? No improvement in Africa, but a lot more African babies being born. That is to say, dysgenics. Let's look at some more facts and figures related to redistribution. 57% of U.S. households pay no federal income tax in 2021. That means they earned nothing. That means 100% of their sustenance is paid by your redistributed tax dollars, a policy which the Democrats staunchly support. Which party do you think they vote for? The purported number of illegal aliens in the USA is 16 million, and the purported cost to the taxpayer for this is $140 billion annually. All these numbers are suppressed so as not to cause panic. The real numbers are likely 4 times these. As an example, let's look at the numbers behind the U.S. territory of Puerto Rico. 23% on welfare, 36% on Medicaid, healthcare redistribution, and 42% on food stamps, more redistribution. And Puerto Ricans vote Democrat. Not to single out Puerto Ricans, we have plenty of similar groups on the U.S. mainland. Welfare is just one of the more overt forms of redistribution, but there are many others that are not so obvious, and they all have euphemistic names. Pell Grants, Federal Housing Assistance, Trade Adjustment Assistance, Title X Social Services Block Grants, Job Training Partnership, Summer Youth Employment Program, Job Corps, Head Start, and Low-Income Home Energy Assistance. Don't be fooled by the benevolent-sounding names. These are all outright handouts of your tax dollars to low IQ individuals, so they will vote for the Democrats. The list of vehicles for redistribution is long, and more forms are included here. Let's look at these one by one. 1. Affirmative action. This is racial discrimination against whites and Asians. It puts blacks and Hispanics in positions in school and in the workplace which they do not have the mental capacity for. These people invariably perform poorly, yet they are paid the same as their white and Asian counterparts who perform their jobs with competence. This is redistribution. 2. Subsidization. Whenever you hear that word in the context of government, it is code for redistribution. What it means is that they are taking your tax dollars and partially or fully paying for the expenses of low IQ, mostly people of color. This could be for houses, cars, Obama phones, or anything else. It's redistribution. 3. Classroom discipline. This is an externality. Heavily black public schools require far more taxpayer dollars to maintain order than do majority white public schools. Externality redistribution. 4. Same situation with destruction of property. Black areas routinely require taxpayer dollars to repair property. You, the taxpayer, pay for that. More externality redistribution. 5, 6, and 7. It is well known that blacks and Hispanics commit more crime than whites and Asians, and thus spend more time in prison than do whites and Asians. Again, you, the taxpayer, foot the bill. More redistribution as an externality. 8. This is an interesting one. Many blacks are awarded degrees based on affirmative action, degrees they could otherwise not attain on their own. Because of their incompetence, they are unemployable in the private sector. What do we do with them? We stuff them into government agencies, as that is the only sector that they can retain a job in. 9. And if that weren't bad enough, we then have to suffer because we are forced to deal with their incompetence and inefficiency when we are forced to deal with these government agencies. Do you notice how many black females you have to deal with at the U.S. Post Office, the DMV, or any government agencies these days? Not exactly rays of sunshine, right? That's a double whammy of redistribution. 10. Low IQ, dysgenic individuals that have much more obesity than high IQ individuals. IQ is in fact inversely correlated with obesity. Think about the last time you flew on a plane. You are of normal weight, but I'm sure you saw some morbidly obese passengers as well, right? What is one of the costliest aspects of flying? Fuel costs. And what determines fuel costs? That's right, weight. Transporting obese bodies costs more than transporting your non-obese body. But guess what? You both pay the same price for your ticket. In effect, you are paying more for your ticket than you should be, and the low IQ, obese passenger is paying less. More of your high IQ money is redistributed to these low IQ, obese people. 11. What about clothes? You wear a small or a medium, maybe a large if you are a large but not obese guy. What do the low IQ, obese masses wear? XL, XXL, XXXL. Their clothing takes twice the amount of fabric and manufacturing than yours does. But you both pay the same price. Again, you are subsidizing the low IQ, obese individuals. Externality redistribution. 12. When is the last time you went to a buffet? You eat, but not as much as the low IQ, obese family there. They eat 2 times what you do, but you both pay the same price. Yet again, you are subsidizing their food. That is more externality redistribution. 13. Have you noticed how there are many more fat people, not old, just fat, being pushed around in wheelchairs at airports? That service is at no charge to the flyer. You pay for it. More redistribution. 14. Minimum wage is not only frank redistribution, but it also increases unemployment. The free market should determine wage. Period. Full stop. 15. Tip inflation occurring now. standard tip was 15%. Now, in many places, it's 18%, 20%, even 25%. More of your dollars being redistributed to mostly low IQ individuals, all of whom vote Democrat. Raising taxes on the minority of citizens who do pay taxes to redistribute to those who don't is bad enough. At least you're aware of this. 2. Running the printing presses and the resultant inflation, on the other hand, is stealing from your back pocket. 3. And now, with the benign-sounding Inflation Reduction Act checks, which do nothing to alleviate inflation, with these checks to the non-taxpayers, inflation becomes one of the single largest mechanisms of redistribution there is. 4. Paying double for groceries when compared to last year? That's the cost to buy Democrat votes, and you are paying for them. Expanding on crime. It costs approximately $100,000 to court an individual through the criminal justice system, and then $50,000 a year to house that individual in prison. All of this is paid for by your tax dollars. Low IQ individuals invariably commit more crime, and as IQs continue to fall, unsurprisingly, there is more crime. You pay for it, and they all vote for the Democrats. A stark example of externality redistribution. There are strong racial correlations with crime. Blacks committing the most, Hispanics next, and whites and Asians in last. Everyone knows this, no matter how much it is censored. The data on race and crime is clear, and everyone is aware of it, despite attempts at rampantly censoring this information. More well-known crime statistics. As redistribution continues unabated and leads to more dysgenics, this will get worse. We are seeing it around us every day. The list of avenues of redistribution is long and getting longer. UBI is around the corner, and reparations will follow shortly thereafter. The Democrats have mastered the art of vote buying, and they use your money to do it. Who pays for the fifth day? You do. And to thank you, that employee will vote Democrat. The lawmaker pictured here knows which side of her bread is buttered. More overt vote buying. And more overt vote buying. Why would anyone work? Stay home, get free stuff, get fat, and vote Democrat. Why the sudden love for illegal aliens by Democrats? Because they are having them vote. They get it. It's all about the numbers. As is often the case, California is leading the way in redistribution. More redistribution in California. California is arguably the most beautiful state in the USA, but with the rampant redistribution that its politicians practice, its economy is being hollowed out. As if abject redistribution weren't bad enough, California is also leading the way in sexual deviancy and childhood gender dysphoria. A democracy is always temporary in nature. It simply cannot exist as a permanent form of government. A democracy will continue to exist up until the time that voters discover that they can vote themselves largesse from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates who promise the most benefits from the public treasury. The unfortunate reality is that one man, one vote democracy, where everyone's vote carries the same weight, is destined to fail given enough time. The Founding Fathers never intended for this to be the case, and we are seeing the catastrophic results from this today. In case we haven't made it clear enough, allow us to do so here. The sole purpose of redistribution is to buy votes for the Democrat Party and for the leftist politicians. It is not for anyone's benefit, despite what they say. Blacks, for example, are far, far worse off than they were in the 1950s. Back then, they had family units, values, went to church, had few illegitimate children. And today, after decades of quote-unquote help from the Democrat Party, where are they? The black family is destroyed. Obesity, drug use, illegitimacy, and crime are rampant among blacks, and their IQs have dropped faster than any other race. They are squarely on the Democrat plantation, yet they will never stop voting Democrat. Let's take a look at our elected so-called leaders. Joe Biden, President of the United States, arguably the most powerful man in the world, suffers from severe senile dementia. AOC, elected House Representative. What are her prior qualifications? She was a bartender. Kamala Harris, current U.S. Vice President, slept with her boss 30 years her senior to gain her entry into politics. And Ilhan Omar, another House Representative, married her own brother to gain entry to the United States. Individuals like these can only be elected by an increasingly low IQ voting populace. Redistribution leads to dysgenics, which in turn leads to lower IQs through society, which in turn leads to people like these being elected, which leads to rapid decline of society as we are witnessing. Maxine Waters, House Representative. Lori Lightfoot, former mayor of Chicago. Eric Adams, mayor of New York. John Fetterman, U.S. Senator. Elizabeth Warren, U.S. Senator. Bernie Sanders, U.S. Senator. All made possible by an increasingly dysgenic and low IQ voting electorate. These individuals have IQs of around 90, yet they are in positions of power. They could not run a lemonade stand. This is the result of one man, one vote democracy plus redistributive dysgenics.